They say there are two kinds of sight: the one that observes the world, and the one that pierces through it. One sees shapes, colors, and faces. The other sees the invisible pulse beneath everything, the fragility of each instant, the echo of consciousness, the silent abyss that we truly are. Most people live only with the first kind of sight. They move through the days like sleepwalkers, naming things, measuring time, chasing comfort. But the spiritually awake, they see differently. They don't look at the world, they see. They're looking back. They feel the tremor of being alive, raw, uncertain, limitless. Jean-Paul Sartre once said, "Man is condemned to be free." Most take it as a clever quote, but it's not. It's a wound disguised as wisdom. Because awakening, true awakening, is not bliss. It's the shock of realizing that freedom is terrifying. No one tells you who you are. No one can. And once you open your eyes, you can never close them again. That's what the awakened see, the unbearable light of existence. Sartre believed that existence comes before meaning. We are born first, and only then do we begin the desperate act of inventing ourselves. The spiritually awake are those who have stopped pretending there's a pre-written script. They've felt the vertigo of standing alone in the vastness of freedom. Most people cling to definitions, names, jobs, identities, anything that tells them who they are. But those who awaken realize that these are only costumes worn by fear. When you strip them away, what's left is something naked and trembling, but real. The awakened see that meaning is not given. It's created. Every choice, every silence, every act of courage is an act of creation. You are the sculptor and the clay, and that realization, though terrifying, is the beginning of seeing with spiritual eyes. When you awaken, you begin to see the absurdity. You see that much of life is a theater of repetition. People rushing to jobs they hate, chasing validation they don't need, living by rules they never questioned. Yet within that absurdity, the awakened find a strange kind of beauty. Because if nothing has inherent meaning, then everything has the potential to become meaningful. A cup of coffee at dawn, the sound of rain, the way a stranger smiles for no reason, all becomes sacred acts in the vast emptiness of existence. That's what Sartre meant when he spoke of freedom. You are not trapped by meaninglessness. You are liberated by it. The spiritually awake don't escape the world. They dive deeper into it, embracing its chaos, its uncertainty, and its fragile grace. Those who remain asleep crave certainty. They want answers, doctrines, and patterns that keep the chaos away. But those who awaken learn to stand inside the storm. They stop searching for safety and begin searching for truth, even when that truth dismantles the comfort they once called home. Awakening is not a gentle process. It's the slow burning of illusions, the death of everything false you've ever believed about yourself. It is realizing that the voice you obeyed for years, the one that told you to fit in, to please, to be small, was never your own. And when that voice fades, there's silence. A vast, echoing silence that can feel unbearable at first. Yet within something extraordinary happens. You begin to hear yourself. Not the ego, not the noise, the self that has been waiting patiently beneath all your roles and masks. Sartre called this the anguish of freedom. That trembling moment when you understand that your life is entirely your own creation. No excuses, no destiny, just you, staring at the infinite, realizing that every step you take is both your prison and your liberation. The spiritually awake live in that tension, the knowledge that they are both the architect and the captive of their own existence. They do not seek to escape it. They seek to understand it, because in that understanding lies the first taste of true freedom. To awaken is not to rise above life, but to sink into it with open eyes. The awakened see the sacred woven through the ordinary, the quiet poetry of existence that others overlook. They look at a tree and don't just see wood and leaves. They see time itself, breathing. They sense how life consumes and renews itself in an endless cycle of becoming. They hear someone speak, and instead of words, they hear the trembling of fear, the longing for connection, the silent prayer hidden behind the voice. This sight is not mystical. It's profoundly human. It's seeing reality without filters, without the need to control or label it. When you awaken, the world doesn't suddenly become brighter. It becomes truer asterisk. You begin to notice the cracks in people's smiles, the exhaustion behind their eyes, and the quiet beauty in their persistence. You understand that everyone is carrying an invisible weight, a private battle between who they are and who they think they should be. And somehow, that awareness doesn't make you colder. It makes you infinitely compassionate. Because once you see through the illusions, judgment fades. You stop asking, why are they like this? And begin to whisper, of course, they're trying to survive, just like me. That is the vision of the spiritually awake, not one that separates them from the world, but one that binds them tenderly to it. The spiritually awake also see the prison of reflection, what Sartre called the gaze of the other. The moment another person looks at you, something inside of you shifts. You stop being pure presence and become an image, a projection in someone else's mind. You begin to perform. You become the version of yourself that you think they want to see. And this, Sartre warned, is one of the deepest forms of hell. Not because others are evil, but because we allow their gaze to define our being. Most people never escape that mirror. They spend their lives adjusting their faces, their words, their desires to match invisible expectations. But the awakened, they break the mirror. They refuse to live as reflections. They understand that freedom means being willing to be misunderstood, to walk through life unmasked, knowing that some will look away, some will judge, and few will truly see. Yet that is the price of authenticity. And in that solitude, that brave, luminous solitude, they find something divine. Because only when you stop performing can you begin to exist. Only when you stop asking, who am I to them, can you finally ask, who am I, when no one is watching? That question is the doorway to awakening, and stepping through it changes everything. Those who awaken understand that enlightenment is not a final destination, but an unending process of dying and being reborn within oneself. Every day, an old identity crumbles, a belief, a certainty, a mask, and in its place, a new perception emerges. It is not peaceful. It is not TD. It is the raw alchemy of consciousness unfolding. To be awake is to live in a constant dance with impermanence, to hold life as one holds a bird, gently, knowing it will fly away. You start to realize that everything you cling to, people, ideas, even your own story, is temporary. But rather than falling into despair, this truth brings an unexpected tenderness. Because when you know that everything passes, you begin to love differently. You no longer love to possess. You love to witness. You love to be present for the fleeting miracle of another's existence. The spiritually awake do not chase permanence. They find peace in the transient. They see that death is not the opposite of life, but its mirror, that endings are what make each breath sacred. Sartre once wrote that we are a useless passion, and maybe he was right. But in that uselessness, there is beauty. For when we stop demanding purpose from life, we finally begin to the awakened walk through the world with eyes wide open, unshielded, vulnerable, alive not because they have found all the answers, but because they have learned to live without needing them. There comes a moment in every awakening when silence becomes the greatest teacher. You no longer rush to fill it with words, prayers, or noise. You simply sit inside it, and it begins to reveal what the world had hidden from you. In that stillness, you realize that you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not the story you tell yourself about who you have been or who you might become. You are the awareness that watches all of it, the quiet witness behind the noise. And when you see that, truly see it, something breaks open. You understand that you are both nothing and everything, that you are the space in which all experiences rise and fade. It's an understanding that cannot be explained, only felt like remembering a truth you've always known. The spiritually awake live from that space. They do not deny pain, nor do they cling to pleasure. They watch both move through them like weather, knowing that neither defines the sky. This is what Sartre meant, in his own way, by radical freedom. The power to be conscious in every moment, to know that you are the one assigning meaning to what happens. No one can do it for you. And that is both the terror and the beauty of being awake. Because once you realize you are the source of meaning, you can no longer blame the world for your blindness. You must choose how to see. And in that choice, you become truly alive. Most people think awakening is about understanding, about finding some grand revelation that makes everything clear. But the truth is simpler and more unsettling. Awakening is about failing asterisk. It's about letting life pierce you without resistance. It's crying without reason, laughing at the absurdity of your fears, standing in the middle of your uncertainty and whispering, yes. The awakened know that there is no map, no path to follow, no fixed truth to cling to. Life itself is the path, unpredictable, messy, beautifully cruel, and weeding it, awareness becomes the only compass. When Sartre wrote that existence precedes essence, he was pointing toward this very mystery. We aren't born with a purpose, we invent one through the way we live. The spiritually awake embrace that invention fully. They play, they stumble, they fall in love with the unknown. They stop pretending that life should make sense, and instead, they start living as if every moment is sense itself raw. They know that suffering is not proof of failure. It's proof of depth. To suffer consciously is to allow the soul to breathe, to expand, to feel the entire spectrum of being human. That's what separates the awake from the asleep. Not the absence of pain, but the courage to walk through it without closing their eyes. For in that openness, they discover something the world keeps forgetting, that the same fire that burns also illuminates. There is a moment, subtle, almost imperceptible, when awakening stops being an idea and becomes a way of breathing. You move through the world differently. You no longer rush to fix, to prove, to win. You start to listen, not just with your ears, but with your entire being. You see that every person you meet is a fragment of the same consciousness, wearing a different face, speaking a different story. You understand that love is not a feeling to possess, but an awareness to inhabit. You stop asking, what do I get from this? And begin to ask, how can I be with this? It's a shift so quiet that no one else notices it, yet it transforms everything. You no longer chase meaning like a mirage. You carry it within you. Sartre called human beings projects of transcendence, forever reaching beyond themselves. The spiritually awake take that truth and make peace with it. They stop trying to arrive. They learn to dwell in the reaching itself. And strangely, in that acceptance, they find a kind of stillness, a deep calm that lives beneath the noise of ambition and fear. You realize that awakening doesn't mean escaping the human condition. It means embracing it fully. The mess, the hunger, the heartbreak, the joy. It's walking through the marketplace of existence with your heart unarmored, your soul exposed, and your eyes wide open, knowing that everything you touch is impermanent, and loving it anyway. When Sartre said that man is condemned to be free, he wasn't being cruel, he was being honest. Because freedom is not the power to do whatever you want. It's the unbearable awareness that everything you do defines who you are. The spiritually awake live with that weight, but they don't shrink from it. They know that no savior is coming, no destiny is written, no authority can absolve them of their choices. And yet, within that loneliness, there's an immense beauty. For when you accept that no one can save you, you begin to save yourself, not through perfection, but through presence. You begin to see that awakening is not about transcending the human struggle, but about entering it completely, with eyes open and heart steady. It's looking into the abyss that everyone avoids, and discovering that it isn't empty at all. It's full of possibility, of love, of consciousness itself. You realize that the darkness you feared was simply the unlit side of your own being, And when you dare to stand inside it, when you let the abyss look back at you, you find that it doesn't devour you. It welcomes you. It whispers, "You are me." That is the revelation of awakening, not escape, but union. You are not separate from existence. You are existence, momentarily aware of itself. And in that awareness lies a freedom so vast, so intimate, that words can only bow before it. The awakened do not see a different world. They see the same world, but stripped of illusion. They walk through its chaos, its tenderness, its contradictions, and whisper quietly, "This too is me." They are not saints, nor detached beings floating above pain. They bleed, they doubt, they break, but they do so consciously, lovingly, awake. They have stopped asking life for answers and started offering it their attention. Because to be awake is not to it is to see. To see the miracle hiding behind every ordinary thing. The trembling of sunlight on a window, the sound of laughter that vanishes into silence, the fragility of a hand reaching for another. The spiritually awake live in that sacred tension between the infinite and the fleeting. They understand that to be alive is both a gift and a burden, and that is what makes it beautiful. Sartre taught that existence precedes essence. But those who awaken learn the secret hidden beneath his words. That essence is something we create through the courage to be. Every thought, every act, every moment of awareness is a brushstroke on the canvas of what we call self. And when the final breath comes, they will not say they understood life, only that they saw it. Truly saw it, that they loved without armor, that they stood in the mystery, trembling but unafraid. What spiritually awake people see that others cannot is not the future, nor the divine, nor some secret realm. It is simply this the unbearable luminous truth that everything, absolutely everything, is alive, and so are you.